Hey fellow tamers and Nishi Dustin, it's Mike aka Sanaku from Overground. Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be going over one of our favorite decks on the channel, and that is Green Imperial Dramon. And we kind of updated it here to reflect some of the changes that we would have made in the BT4 format. Now this is a deck that's been requested a few times. Every time we release a new Green Imperial Dramon deck, and every time a new set gets released, somebody usually asks, hey, how would you update this list for the new format? And I always go, I don't think I can. And then I turn around and build it anyway, because, that's what I do. And again, big shout out to our good friend Dwarf Commander, link to his Twitch as well, for testing this deck out for us, because we've been a little bit busy this month, so I've kind of just been sending him lists. I'm like, hey, test this out, give me preliminary results, and then we'll go ahead and we'll go back to the drawing board and tinker with it a little bit later. So yeah, he's been playing it in a couple local tournaments, getting some good results, relaying his data back to me, and then every so often we kind of talk shop and we kind of figure out what we want to change and what we could adjust for the deck moving forward. And this is kind of the current draft we have going now, and I felt that this was good enough to post on the channel to kind of get a discussion going with you guys amongst the community and see what you guys think. So let's go ahead and talk about the card by card. So we're going to go into our babies. We're playing 4 copies of the new Modimon from the new Green starter deck, as well as 1 copy of Minomon. Modimon is the baby of choice here because, like regular Imperial Dramon decks, your end goal is kind of wanting to get to your big boss monster. You want to get to one of your 2 main Imperial Dramons. It's a level 6, so Modimon will always make sure that it gets 1,000 extra DP. Ironically, Imperial Dramon Dragon Mode Blue has jamming, so the DP doesn't necessarily matter. However, having 13,000 DP is relevant when it comes to just using it to kind of get over some of your opponent's threats. And when it comes to the Green Imperial Dramon Dragon Mode, being 13,000 by default allows you to kind of trigger your piercing capabilities a lot more often and a lot more consistently, while also ensuring that you have less opportunity to die in your opponent's security depending on what they have in there. Again, as we've discussed in other videos in the past, 14,000 is kind of the number to beat, and if we can get our stack built properly, we can actually have the Green Imperial Dramon Dragon Mode reach a 15,000 DP threshold, which means that no matter what we're piercing over, we're going to survive the security, bearing any outside removal or anything like that. And Minomon is just to kind of give us that extra push of 1,000 DP this time when we're attacking a Digimon specifically. But we just want to have more consistency. Babies in general, we're always going to get that big boost when we get to our top end. Moving on to our rookies, we're playing 4 copies of the new starter Palmon. This is just what we were talking about in terms of getting our Imperial Digimons up to potentially 15,000. Palmon, when you're attacking a Digimon specifically, you do get an extra 2,000 as well. 4 copies of Kukumon. This is kind of a staple in Green Imperial Digimon lists. If you're familiar with the card of the Inheritables, if your Digimon is level 6 or higher, which is important now, which we'll get to with the brand new addition to the deck later on in the deck, you get straight attack +1. So this allows our jamming Imperial Dramon to swing for 2 checks, potentially twice in a row if we have it with the Imperial Dramon stack. This allows our piercing Imperial Dramon to also get 2 checks every time we run over one of our opponent's Digimon. Playing 3 copies of the new starter deck Tentomon. This is on play. We reveal the top card of our deck. If it's a Green Digimon, we get to add it to our hand. And 3 copies of Terriermon because, Lightning Ray sucks. Hammer Spark sucks. Jack Raid sucks. All these memory gaining shenanigans, we just want to shut it down, bite it off at the heel, kill it at the source, and Terriermon enables us to make sure that our opponent cannot get any extra value out of those options or any additional Digimon or effects that would grant them additional memory. Moving on to our champions, we're playing 4 copies of Gargomon, 4 copies of the new starter deck Kabuterimon, which is a blocker, but it's another 1-cost evolution, which is very important, 2 copies of the BT1 Kabuterimon, which is the same inheritable as Gargomon, which is for every suspended Digimon your opponent has in play, we get +1,000, and as well as 2 copies of Woodmon, just to give us additional blocking power in the matchups where it is necessary. We have 6 blockers total now to defend against any rush decks or any strategy that we would require to put up a defense against. Moving on to our ultimates, it's Imperial Dramon, so pretty standard. We're playing 4 copies of Down and B and 4 copies of Biodramon. That's it. In a previous green list back in 1.5, we were playing the 1 Argomon. In this version of the list, we don't necessarily need it as much anymore because we don't need to rely on something like Bancho Stingmon. We have just better top ends in general that we can rely on. Moving on to our level 6s, we're playing 3 copies of the Green Imperial Dramon Dragon Mode and 2 copies of the Blue Imperial Dramon Dragon Mode. Now, full disclosure, this should be 4 copies. However, it turns out that I must have traded or sold my 4th copy of the Green one, so we're only playing 3. And this is being supplemented now by a 2nd copy of Puppetmon. Originally, I was only playing 1. However, I'm not completely opposed to 2 copies of Puppetmon, and as I go through the remainder of the list, I'll explain why. So the Imperial Dramon package here, again, just pretty self-explanatory. We have 5 copies that we can potentially hit off our Davises, 5 copies that we can evolve on top of our ultimate package here. And they're normally 5 to evolve, but we get reduced to 3 if we have the proper ultimates, which that's the only ultimates we play, which is another reason why I didn't want to play Argomon. And so if you're unfamiliar with the Imperial Dramon line, the green one we might be because he doesn't see as much play. It has piercing natively, and once per turn, if it destroys something by battle, it can actually unsuspend itself. And then, Blue Imperial Dramon, you know me, love them, jamming, and on evolution, you get to untap all your jammers. So both of these work very well in combination with Kukumon because they both have potential to swing multiple times depending on how you built your stack or just depending on what your opponent's board state is. And being able to swing multiple times at potentially 14,000, 15,000 at straight attack +1 is very, very powerful and cannot be ignored. Now, moving on to the 2 Puppetmon. Puppetmon is very powerful for the yellow matchup specifically because it allows you to keep your opponent's threats down, so that shuts off War Greymon's ability to just kind of swing and then play a free body and then untap and then swing, play another free body. Sure, if you give them the 10 memory, they can potentially like play 2 Bushi Agumons from their hand, like at least like for free basically anyway. However, that means you're only taking 2 security, so unless you were in a position where 2 Bushi Agumons would have killed you anyway, Puppetmon is still strong enough to kind of keep your opponent suppressed and prevent them from advancing their game state, by taking their security, unlocking their security levels by putting it to 3 or less, putting like extra Pulse Wand and stuff in their play to get extra advantage. So you just want to make sure that you can suppress the matchups where necessary, and it also keeps your opponent's stuff suspended, so when it goes back into your turn, you can actually just swing over all their stuff with Piercing and just reap your massive advantage from that point as well. Puppetmon can also evolve over top of a Dino Bee in a weird clutch scenario, but then the reason we're playing multiple puppets as well is that we want more green Megas, so that way we can have access to our Chaosmon, again, which is one of the newest additions to the green Imperial Dramon family. Regular Imperial Dramon normally plays Omni, now green can play Chaosmon, and this is the black-green Chaosmon, so this is the one with Piercing, and this is the one where on evolution you can unsuspend it and then immediately attack one of your opponent's Digimon. And when you're doing that in combination with something like Kukuamon, you can swing with Dragon Mode, take out an opponent's Digimon, take 2 security, go into Chaosmon, or unsuspend it anyway, attack, take 2 more security, and then depending on how much they've, healed or anything like that, even if you don't end up having to unsuspend it, you can go into Chaosmon, attack another one of their Digimon, and with Kukuamon, you can take 1 or 2 security, depending on how much they have left. So it's kind of like the green OTK variant, whereas instead of having jamming, we can just get our DP up to a point where needing to have jamming doesn't really matter, but we can kind of get those free security checks depending on how we build our stack. Yeah, so just Chaosmon's just a really powerful addition, just extra form of removal and extra piercing power, which is actually very, very strong. Then we got 3 copies of Flower Cannon. This was originally Needle Spray, however, in testing we found that Flower Cannon helped, again, kind of keep you alive a little bit longer, and especially in the yellow matchup, if they do go like attack with Greymon, play Bushi, and then you flip a Flower Cannon, you can suspend that Bushi right away, so it stops them from getting that free swing that they otherwise would have gotten through that War Greymon's Anjouamon inheritable, for example. And then just, Flower Cannon was just a way to keep you alive a little bit longer. If you do end up drawing it, you can suspend your opponent's blockers to kind of run over them, especially, or to kind of get them out of the way if you're trying to go for lethal as well. Needle Spray does have a place in this deck because it has kind of dual purpose. You can suspend something and you can add it to your hand to do it again later. Needle Spray can also suspend blockers at the time of activation when it gets flipped. We're still kind of going back and forth over which option is better than the other, and that's basically going to depend on how the format kind of shapes up by the end of BT4. As it stands right now, this is the best option at the moment since we're seeing such a big bump in yellow popularity. If we see a bigger bump in something like green where they kind of sit on blockers while they're building up their stack, Needle Spray might be better, because that way you can just kind of eliminate their boards and eliminate their potential to keep themselves safe as they're trying to go for game on their end as well. And finally, to round off the deck, we're playing 3 copies of Davis, just to add more consistency to the deck. Davis can search the entire deck, Digimon-wise, outside of Chaosmon specifically, and it allows us to make sure we can go to 3 every single turn. And then the last card here is just the 1 hidden potential discovered. It's a green deck, you literally pretty much can't play it without it. You can cheat pretty much any of your Digimon into play with it if you play it properly. You can cheat Chaosmon into play as well if you're evolving it over one of your green Imperial Dramons by suspending something else, just as an example. But yeah, it's too good not to play. You pretty much have to include it in any green deck. It is a staple. So yeah, I know I've run through this pretty quickly. This is because this is a deck that we kind of showcased a couple times before, so outside of the kind of random inclusions, there's not really much to talk about. It's not like it's a new strategy that warrants a lot of discussion. This overall end plan pretty much stays exactly the same. You get to Imperial Dramon ASAP, and then you just start wrecking your opponent's stuff based on the current board state that they have and based on the stack that you were able to build. And ideally, you can build your stack in a very specific way, like something like Palamon with a Kabuterimon, Gargomon into your Imperial Dramon, so that way when you are attacking over for something for piercing, you're going to be at like 14, 15, 16,000 on a good day, and that way no matter what you pierce with, you will survive the check and you'll live to see another day on to the next turn. And if you want to be more aggressive, you have something like a Kumon with one of these 2 as well. On top of your Modimon, you're always going to make sure you can hit those big DP thresholds while getting in multiple checks of your opponent's security. And if you're feeling even fancier, if you can build a Kukumon stack with the Pyodramon into Imperial Dramon Dragon Mode Blue, you can just swing twice with jamming and take 4 checks, and that just always feels awesome. So yeah, it's a very powerful deck, it's a very fast deck, it's a very consistent deck, and it's a deck that I absolutely do love. I love Imperial Dramon in both colors, in both sides of the coin, and it's a deck that I will continue to experiment with and try to break as we get more and more sets in the future. And more Imperial Dramons, because we just had that one new Imperial Dramon, a new Pyodramon revealed for the EX, the old school art side set, which is actually really cool. So I'm really excited to kind of take a look at how that meshes with the overall archetype as a whole. But yeah, if you guys have any comments, thoughts, or suggestions, as always, leave them in the comment section below. If you have any extra ideas that you want to add to this deck, or if you think that the theory behind it might be a little wonky, or you want to bring something to my attention, let me know as well. And if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up so we know that this is the type of content that you guys came here to see and that you guys want to see more of it. Yeah, not much else to say. subscribe if you haven't already. That'd be great. I really appreciate it. We're trying to hit 500 subs by the end of July. We're hoping to reach our 1,000 milestone hopefully by the end of October, and any little bit of help helps. So thanks a lot for watching, everybody. I've been Mike, aka Sanaku, once again. This is our green Imperial Dramon deck, and I look forward to bringing you more decks like this in the future. Thanks a lot, guys. See you later.